Okay.
Hello, everyone. It is Thursday, September the 4th. The year is 2025, and we are Women on the Move, and we're going to discuss another book, and it's actually my book club that I'm hosting this evening. So I will let everybody know the title and give a summary after we make introductions. So first of all, I'm Cindy.
I'm Angie.
Harriet.
I'm Vivian.
Oh, Della.
I'm Zadie.
I'm Sam.
And then Melody is joining us via another platform. So Melody, just wave. Oh, Gary, you can say hi yourself.
Hi, I'm Melody, and I'm just happen to be in a different place right now.
Okay, awesome. Okay, perfect. All right, thank you for showing me that, Harriet. Okay, awesome. So we're going to go ahead and rock and roll. And the book that we are discussing is called True Grit. It's by Charles Portis, and I'll just give a basic summary, and then I have questions, and we're going to have a lively discussion this evening. So, True Grit was written in 1968. It's a novel by Charles Portis that was first published as a serial within the Saturday Evening Post. The novel was adapted for the screenplay of the 1969 film True Grit. Thought that was interesting. The book was written in 1968 and the film a year later. That's powerful. The plot summary, the novel is narrated by Mattie Ross. She's our main character. She's a church-going spinster distinguished by intelligence, independence, and strength of mind. She recounts the story of her adventures 50 years earlier in 1878 when she undertook a quest to avenge her father's murder by a drifter named Tom Chaney. She is joined on her quest by Marshal Reuben J. We know of him as Rooster Cogburn, and a Texas Ranger named Ladeef. So as Maddie's tale begins, Chaney is employed on the Ross's family farm in west central Arkansas near the town of Dardanelle in Yell County. So that's a little bit of background about our story. So we'll go into more detail as the story unfolds. So my first topic for discussion, and for everyone to know, this story takes place, Mattie is 14 years old, and her father's Frank Ross. She has a mother, and then I don't even remember seeing her mother's name, just mother. She had a sister, Victoria, and a brother, little Frank. So Maddie's 14 years old, and I want us to first talk about Maddie's maturity. So let's discuss that first, and whatever any of you ladies want to say, let's discuss Maddie's maturity at 14, where she's going to avenge the death of her father.
Well, I don't know if you guys can hear me or not.
Yes, we can.
But I think she's a little spitfire and has just a lot of gumption for a 14-year-old and a lot of knowledge. Like she was fearless. She just tackled a situation and she was not going to let fear overcome her.
Exactly. Any other thoughts from you ladies?
I was impressed that at 14, she was a very astute businesswoman. She knew how to conduct business no matter what the obstacles were, and she stood her ground for everything that she wanted. She was brave, she was determined, and she loved her family.
She surely did.
Hmm
She
I think
surely
she was her father's daughter, because she makes the point that she keeps the books, and her mother doesn't not really have a brain for all that. So it seems like her father must have spent a lot of time with her, talking to her about his business, but also about his beliefs and his values, because at 14 she had to get them from somewhere, you know.
hmm
And then I had to remind myself in reading it, this is really a 40, 50-year-old woman talking about what she was like when she was 14. So in
correct.
some places I thought, well, maybe, she's made it a little bit stronger, but clearly Maddie had to do a whole lot of that in order to get get everything lined up to go along with Rooster and go with Rooster and live through that whole experience. So pretty impressive.
Exactly. One thing I want to mention, their family, Frank Ross, Maddie's father, he was an awesome businessman.
Yes.
We can probably say he was a wealthy man. He had clear title to 480 acres of good bottom land on the south bank of the Arkansas River, not far from Dardanelle in Yell County, Arkansas. So he had those 480 acres, and the mother came from money. His wife came from money. Her father, which was Maddie's grandfather, he lived in Monterey, California. He owned a store that you could see the ocean from the window, and every year he would send Maddie $5. Back in 18, the story takes place in 1868. So 1868, $5. I mean,
That was a
if
lot of
we
money.
Googled and saw what $5 was like then, I mean, what would that be? $100? I mean, my goodness, that was a lot of money she got. So that showed, so the family had means. So I love that. And then I like at one point down the road, the Tom Chaney says, I know you, Mattie Ross, little bookkeeper. So she was known as that. But then one thing about it too, at that time, people grew up faster, farmers, and they were more mature, because when you think about it, in the 1800s, a lot of women were married at 14 years old. They may have a couple of children or one at that point. So women and children grew up faster. They had to be more independent. But then Mattie, like you said, Angie, I'm sure she was very much like her father. And he saw that she had the business savvy. So I'm sure he cultivated that.
One thing I wanted to say about
Yes.
Mattie, she showed her incredible intelligence with some of the things that have been said, her business savvy, her fearlessness. And what I loved about her is she always had like what we would say in these days, a clapback. And I remember in one scene where Wooster was playing cards and drinking, and she was saying, I don't know how you can play cards, drink, and be a detective at the same time. And I think she astonished him with her boldness. A couple of times he was like, little sister, you stay here. And she was easily opened her mouth and said, oh no, I'm going with you. I'm not staying here. As if to say, I might be a girl, but I'm not fearful of what's going on. And even in one scene, Brewster offered her a drink, and she said, what did I write down? She said, I wouldn't put that thief in my mouth to steal my brains. And it was things like that. She had those little quick jabs that were just showed her quick-wittedness and her intelligence and all those things.
Exactly.
I have to add one thing that shocked me. When they were playing cards, she told them she knows how to play bid whist. And I said, where's in
Yeah,
1868? I was shocked.
That was good. And then go ahead.
And she was quick to get her lawyer also. She knew to get her lawyer,
Yeah.
Lawyer
Exactly. And for a family having a lawyer, that says they were people of means as well. Because it's like that, quote unquote, they had the lawyer on retainer, so she could just call him when she needed him. So I love the way Mattie talked about, I want to talk about this first. What did all of you think? The book doesn't say anything about when Mattie's saying she's going to go off, and she took $100, to take care of what she needed to, because she's going to find this Tom Chaney or go to where, they told her the father is. So the mother, it's just like she lets her 14-year-old daughter go. And they don't mention anything about how the mother feels about that. We don't know anything about the mother missing her and being worried about her until LaBeef goes through there, because he's on the hunt for Tom Chaney as well. And then he catches up to Mattie and tells her, your mother's worried about you.
But
Well, I think she
the rest,
mentions, though, that her mother was all torn up about her father's death and that she had to take charge and she left little Frank couldn't have done it, so she had to do it. So I think there was some mild consent there. But it sounded like, though, that Maddie was the lead in the family anyway, so for a
Right.
lot of ways. So,
but the mom sent her with
yeah.
someone.
Yes, exactly. The gentleman, Yarnell.
Well,
Yeah,
you're now.
yeah, like
Yeah.
Exactly. And guess what? Back then, because of course back then, a black man, he was called colored. That was not normal either for a
Mhm.
14-year-old girl to go on this trip with a colored man.
You
Mhm.
could tell that she was very comfortable talking in the adult world, though. She was very comfortable giving orders, even to Yarnell, to the lawyer. She was very comfortable, and I would have to say that has to be from her father because,
Yeah.
as we know from her mother was all broken up, so she didn't even really wasn't being able to even think straight.
Right. Exactly. Very well said. So now let's fast forward. Maddie is going with Yarnell. They're going to Fort Smith, because that's where the dad and Tom Chaney. Now, isn't it interesting? Even when Tom Chaney, because he was a drifter, and Maddie thought he was just trash, even when the dad hired him because he was down on his luck, and the
Mm-hmm.
dad took pity on him. Maddie didn't like him at that time. And then remember, Tom, when the dad was going to go pick up his ponies that he had purchased, then Tom is saying he wanted to go with him. And then, what transpired was so sad, but it's something that Maddie knew that Tom wasn't a man of integrity more
Right.
so than her dad. So she knew about his character at that point. So what did all of you think? Because he was not a tenant working for hire or for shares, he was working for hire. So uh, so what did all of you think about how that transpired with Tom killing Frank Ross? Somebody tell that story and then give your insight.
Well, I think out of the goodness of his heart, um, Frank Ross was trying to mentor Tom Chaney. He was trying to give him good advice. He was trying to let him know that um, you're the reason why your money is gone. They didn't cheat you, you gambled it away. And so, even trying to tell him to go after them might endanger your life. But Tom Chaney, with his, diminished capacity and his anger, felt like Frank Ross was judging him and getting in his business and kind of, how you going to tell me what to do? I'm going after them. And then killed him and then stole the gold pieces from him. So
Correct.
Maddie judged him properly.
Mhm.
And I think all of us have been in a situation where a family member was involved with somebody, either business, romantically, friends, and said, I don't think that's the person you should hang out with. I think that person is a wrong suit is not suited to for you. You can just tell. I would say the Holy Spirit will tell you people, but I think that Frank Ross is really sad to his own detriment.
Correct.
Tried to help Tom Chaney, and Tom Chaney was not a person of character and integrity. Even when
Exactly.
they were staying at the rooming house where eventually Maddie stayed, Frank Ross was probably paying for everything,
Of course.
trying to just show him, mentor, and guide him.
Right.
But he really was too far gone.
Right.
But
Exactly.
it was pretty clear though that there was a strong moral upbringing, and there
Mm-hmm.
was quite a bit of scriptural knowledge. And she does make the point that her father was um, was very generous and kind in that area. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
and she kind of made it sound like, well, I'm not like that's one area I'm not like my dad. I don't have that kind of, and I can't
Right.
remember how she said it. But what I loved was her strength when she was there in Fort Smith. Um, not just when she was dickering with Stonehill about the horses and going back and forth about that bargain, but when she first meets LaBeef at the home at the boarding house, and how I mean, he even makes advances at her, and she's like, well, you could slap me or kiss me. One wouldn't be any worse than the other, or something like that. So. But so the funny thing is, she was the one with true grit. And
Mhm.
she
Yes,
was the
I
one who
really
brought out true grit in everyone she met, because they were all a little bit flawed in some ways, but because her perseverance, her belief, and all that was so strong, and she was
Just a
never going
minute,
to give
Malachi.
up,
Just a minute.
uh,
Just a minute.
that
Come here.
she's the one that made everyone else have true grit, including Rooster.
Exactly. So do all
I
of you, just real quick, Mattie felt her dad was trying to do the right thing, and the dad felt responsibility to Tom, since Tom was a tenant and he felt he was his brother's keeper. Remember, that's what
Right.
Mattie said.
That's what she
But
said.
should Frank have interfered with Tom? Who thinks he should have interfered?
I think he was trying to a certain extent to protect his own interest as well. He didn't want him to get in trouble. He really did want to give him that second chance. So I think that was in his mind. He was trying as best he could to help this man who's not as moral, to get out of a bad situation, because he saw that it was going down and that it was not good. And he was, in a sense, being responsible for this gentleman. And so he was, I think, out of his own responsibility, he felt he needed to act. And anyways, that was one interesting thing. But back to what you were saying about how Mattie said that she wasn't like her dad. I think she was a lot more like her dad than she gives herself credit for, because she gave second chances to the guys she was with. I mean, she didn't give up on them either, even though they weren't, they had their own savory character type stuff too.
Mhm.
So.
And
Right.
Cheney always said throughout, everybody is against me. So it's like he had that chip on his shoulder and he wasn't going to trust anybody, and he was just out for himself. So,
Exactly. But wasn't it interesting when we found out why Cheney was being pursued by LaBeef?
yeah,
Because he had killed a senator. Oh, and his real
senator.
name wasn't even
Mhm.
Tom Cheney, it was Theron Chelmsford.
Mm-hmm.
He shot Senator Bibbs' bird dog. And when Bibb threatened to whip him, because, back in those days, to whip him, then Cheney shot him on his porch. I
Yeah,
mean,
Yeah.
he was just upset at the world. He
yeah.
kept saying, everybody's against me. Everybody's against me.
And wasn't it interesting the money that they received at that time, like when they were a bounty on someone's head, it was for getting a fugitive, a warrant. The government paid $2 for
Right.
bringing the person in, plus $10 a mile. And then Mattie was going to give him a $50 reward. So that
Hmm.
was good money, because other than that, he would have just
Mhm.
gotten $2 plus the 10 cents per mile. But let's talk about how, somebody brought it up. I think Angie, you did, or Vivian, one of you did, about the negotiations with Colonel Stonehall with those horses, the dad. Oh my gosh, Mattie was something else. Who
Mm.
wants to talk about
Mhm.
that? Her negotiation skills.
She knew how to barter. And that was impressive to me with a 14-year-old girl. And I don't know whether she saw her dad do anything like that because her dad was such a righteous man. You wouldn't expect it. But when she was trying to barter the price of the horse, she got on that man's last nerve. He could not stand her
That's
because
So
she would
bad that
Exactly.
not
he had
let
to
up
give
and she
up.
was
Yeah.
determined.
yeah.
Correct.
Hmm.
Correct. And then she even said, I'll get my attorney involved.
That's
I was like,
right.
Right.
she's pulling out all the stops. It's like you can't bamboozle and you can't pull the wool over me. I may be
Hmm.
14 years old, but I'm gonna go head to head with you.
That's right. And she
That was
did.
awesome because he didn't want those horses. Oh.
I could just see the look on his face every time she came to him. He was like, "Oh no, not her again."
And
Exactly.
and then she spends the night in the barn and she doesn't offer to pay anything for it or
Exactly.
anything.
Right.
But he
Uh-huh.
just is like, I don't want to deal with you anymore, whatever you say.
I know, I know. And that boarding house, that was humorous. And she has to sleep in the bed with that woman and can't
Grandma
get any.
Turner.
Yeah, the
Yes, who
grandma.
was, stole the covers from her, snored, and that was hilarious. But
But
I
I
thought it,
like the fact that she had a relationship with her after a while. She was even
yes,
reading to her and you
Yeah.
know spending quality time with her too.
Hmm.
correct. You sleep in the bed with somebody, I guess so.
I guess.
Yes.
So then the way the relationship in the movie, I think they showed Rooster being a little bit younger, but technically he was like in his late 40s when Maddie met him.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I thought it was interesting when she, heard about it because she got his recommendation from the sheriff, if I remember
Right.
correctly. Yes.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
then Maddie was just so resourceful. She went to court to watch him in court. I was like,
Hmm.
girl, you are so, and then it's like, how did she know she wanted somebody with true grit? That was phenomenal.
Well, he wasn't even recommended. He was kind of a throwaway name, like.
Right.
Oh, and then there's Rooster Cogburn, who's got
Right.
his grit, but he's just, he's you can't really trust him kind of. This one guy you can trust. He's gonna follow the law. And you're like, I don't want that one. I
Right.
want the guy who's gonna do what I tell him to do, basically.
I think
Exactly.
the thing that made her change her mind about the other guy was the fact that the sheriff told her that sometimes he believes in giving the worst people, even the worst people, a second chance. And
Mhm.
she didn't want Tom Chaney to get no second chance. She wanted to have
Hmm.
him brought to law. So
Mhm.
that's why she went with Rooster. And plus, she said that he told her that he was going to bring the guy back alive. Well, she wanted him back dead or alive. She wanted to make sure
Hmm.
she got him either way.
Yes, I agree with that.
Exactly. And then LaBeef, the Texas Ranger, I saw the movie after I read the book. I just happened to be looking at the TV and there's a channel that shows old movies and I saw True Grit. So then I had set my TV to record it and I was still reading the book, or maybe I hadn't read it yet, but I saved it. I didn't watch it until after I'd read the book. Oh my gosh. And it followed the book really closely. But
Yes.
remember the scene when Maddie's trying to go and both LaBeef, so she's got Cogburn, Rooster, he's going to do it. And then LaBeef wants to go too because he's trying to bring him in, but they don't want Maddie to go. And
Right.
it's like, I'm
Hmm.
not paying you, I am going as well. And then when LaBeef goes to spank her, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a grown man spanking her.
But that's when Rooster let it go on for a little bit, but then he was like,
Hmm.
enough's enough. Now she's
Correct.
proved herself already just by getting this far, you know.
Correct. Exactly. So I'm glad they let her go and with them.
Mhm.
So I want everybody, I want each of you to give one word to describe these different individuals and I'll call on you by name and then you can just run down. So one word to describe Maddie, one word to describe her mother, her father, Rooster, and LaBeef. So, Angie, I'll start with you first. What word would you use to describe Maddie? Just one word.
Tough.
Her father.
Honest.
Her mother.
Um, I would say ill. I don't know. Pain,
Yes. Okay. Rooster.
drunk.
And LaBeef.
Um, One word. I'm trying to think of what one word it is. I just think he's full of himself.
Okay. Harriet, I know you have to go, so I'll let you go next. So, Harriet, what one word would you
Okay.
use to describe Mattie?
Fearless.
Her father.
Um, Caring.
Her mother.
Lost.
Rooster.
Searching.
LaBeef.
Driven.
Okay. Vivian. Mattie.
Tenacious.
Her father.
Christian.
Her mother.
Docile.
Rooster.
Funny.
And LaBeef.
Serious.
All right. Zadie. Mattie.
I go with fearless.
Okay. Her father.
Um, Upstanding.
Mother.
I didn't have much of a sense of the mother on there, so I'll go with docile.
Okay. Rooster.
Rooster. Oh, a fool.
Okay. LaBeef.
LaBeef. Gosh, I don't know. I guess aggressive.
Okay. And Melody.
All right. With Mattie, I have to say Spitfire. She just
Okay. All right. Her mother, the father.
honorable.
Okay. Mother.
I want to say family orientated or family, that was her life. So
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. And then Rooster.
Spunky. I mean, and yeah, spunky.
And then LaBeef.
Arrogant.
Ah, okay. And then Sam. Mattie. Oh, we can't hear you, Sam.
Still can't hear me?
Now we can. Go ahead. Start over. So Mattie.
Okay. Mattie, I think she was a Spitfire, but that's
Okay.
her mother, docile.
Okay. The father.
The father was honest.
Okay. And Rooster.
Someone said funny, and I think he was funny in many ways, but I think he had integrity.
Okay. And then LaBeef.
Arrogant seems to be the best word for him.
Okay. So I say my word for Mattie is brave. Her father, integrity. And the mother, I said quiet because she basically was a person in the background. We just didn't hear much from her. Rooster, I said loyal. And LaBeef, self-serving. Okay, awesome. Yes. So now let's fast forward and let's go to they're on their search, and Tom Cheney has taken up with Ned Pepper. They've robbed a train, and Rooster knew where Ned Pepper's hangout was or dugout. So they go there, and then they're waiting. The three of them are waiting. So Rooster and Mattie are on one side, LaBeef is on the other. They're waiting. And then a couple of the men come back. Who was it? Quincy and Moon. So they come back. So then someone describe what happens when they come back to the dugout. I
Well,
picture it like
they
a
were
little
already
ball.
in the dugout because they
Okay,
kind of
yes.
smoke them out.
Thank you. Yes, that's right. They were in there already. Yes.
And there is no honor among thieves. You certainly learn in that situation. And that was one of the things that Mattie brought out with the people around her is that they did become honorable and loyal to each other throughout through the ordeal that they go through, you know, and they kind of become a little bit more of a team during that situation. But you see, they work their way in, and Rooster knows the two from past, or at least knows one of the two from past interactions, I think. And they kind of it's like a shark feed. They start eating their own. They just start tearing each other apart, and they end up they not making it. But then they're there for when old Lucky Ned Pepper comes with the rest of his folk,
Mm-hmm.
and Lucky Ned Pepper lives true to his name, is Lucky, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and a few of the others are, but then they with I think because they might have gotten some money from him too, they load up all those dead people. But according to Maddie, it's like we got to get these, that they need to take the bodies back to someplace so they can be picked up by their kin or whatever.
Right.
And they take those back, and that kind of sets them back a little bit. But I think I was trying to figure it out. I think the whole thing seems to have only taken 3 or 4 days. There's only a few nights that they're out there and stuff that they describe as being very cold and stuff. But I think, they're covering a lot of territory. They're doing a lot while they're out there.
In a short period of
A
time.
short
Yes.
period of
And then
time.
that night, because when they're waiting for Ned and the gang to come back, we learned they had been robbing a train. That night, that's when Rooster and Mattie really connected because they talked all night.
Hmm.
So they really connected. And I really believe that Rooster, he definitely had love for Mattie like a daughter. He grew
Mm-hmm.
to truly love
Mm-hmm.
her.
Mm-hmm.
Or little sister, like he called her.
Yes,
Hmm.
exactly. Yes.
I
Yes.
think he also admired her
Yeah.
because of the way she stood her ground, of the way she bartered with him, and
Mhm.
the way she became a real, true part of the team.
Hmm.
Exactly. She
Yeah.
was bound and determined, Zadie.
And then their signal went wrong on there when the guys came and shot their gun, and then they all started shooting. It just went all wrong on there.
Yeah.
Exactly. So now let's fast forward towards the end where, the Ned Pepper and his group, they've gotten away. So now they're having to, Maddie, LaBeef, and Rooster are having to trail after them again. And then they get to a point where they're not far from each other. They don't realize it, but Maddie goes to get water, I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
goes to get water and then she sees Tom Chaney across, and that's when he says to her, I know you, Maddie, little bookkeeper. So then she shot him,
All right.
Shoots
and
him.
then she gets captured by them. And then Ned tells him to take her to Fort Smith. And it's like how Ned thinks that Tom Chaney is just going to do what he says. Tom wants to kill this little girl. I don't
Hmm.
know why Ned thought that Tom would leave her alive.
Ned didn't care.
Yeah, even Maddie though, she told him after she shot, "You come over here and let me take you in." I was like, "Oh my
She was
gosh."
bold.
She was.
She was definitely fearless. Yes.
Yeah.
So then who wants to talk about the scene? I can just see it vividly. And then of course I saw the movie. How many of you actually saw the movie?
It's
Yeah.
been a long
And you
time
did?
ago.
Yes, a long
Yeah.
time ago. Oh my
Which
gosh.
which movie?
The
I
one
watched
with
both of them.
Yeah.
I
oh,
saw the in 1969. I remember going with my parents to a drive-in theater in the back of a station wagon watching it then because we all tried to pretend like we were Rooster Cogburn after that, riding horses like that.
Okay.
And I was afraid to pick this book because I was afraid I would recall the movie more, that would color it. But the movie, once I read the book, it was like the movie pairs to it so
Very much
well.
so.
And I rewatched it and I watched the new one. They were all good. There was, just those little differences at the very end with the one from '69 with John Wayne and Kim Darby and Glenn Campbell. So
I must have seen a different one because I didn't see the one with John Wayne.
yeah, you saw the
Oh,
newer one that is Kurt Russell
Oh,
and Matt Damon and a girl who's young.
Yes.
Because Kim Darby was like 20s. She was supposed to
Okay.
be a 14-year-old, but she was older. Um,
Yes.
and but they even in, I was looking at some pictures from that movie, and it shows them holding True Grit and looking at the dialogue in the book. And I can imagine reading this book and thinking, oh my gosh, I want to be this character. I want to play this character, Fearless,
Right.
because they're so rich.
Correct.
At some point we'll talk, I'm sure, about Charles Portis and how did he write in the voice of a middle-aged woman recounting what she did when she was 14.
14
I,
years old.
I just thought, man, this was just beautiful writing.
Exactly. It was.
and it
It
was
was.
like I say and she said and
Yeah, but
He
and
did it.
all the
Said
little
I.
things that she
Sometimes she
put
would
in
say,
there.
said I.
said I, yeah, that was different.
Exactly. He did a good job. So the scene that, so then they get to the point, there's a tussle, LaBeef is fighting them, Rooster's fighting them, and now Maddie's by herself with Tom. She goes to shoot him, and the backfire, she falls into this pit because they keep telling her
Right.
there's this pit, there's a snake pit, and then you call it backfire from the gun. She falls in the pit. I'm like, oh Lord.
It's
Oh
the
my
worst of the
God.
worst.
Yes. And then she broke her arm and then, from the fall. And golly, everything is quiet for a long time. And then LaBeef comes along and then Cheney hits him in the head. He's knocked out. So she's down there. So, she's trying to get herself up, but she doesn't have the strength in the one arm. And then her leg is, tangled up. And so then, there's this skeleton down there. And then she moves it. Oh my gosh, that's when all those snakes came out. Oh, goodness gracious, that was sad. And the fact that she only got bitten once, that was that
Yeah.
was that was miraculous right there.
Mm-hmm.
So
But even
then,
the way
and
that was written with where she just keeps slipping because the moss, I mean,
yes,
you were just on pins and needles the whole time.
yes,
And oh my gosh, don't panic, don't panic. But it had to be
yes.
dark and dank.
Exactly. And you can
Mm.
visualize it too.
Yes.
She's scared and then she sees a skeleton. So she's not the only one who fell down there.
Right.
Those rattlers got that dude, that
Yeah.
man down there. And then,
Yeah.
so fast forward, then Rooster saves the day. He comes and then he's the one who killed Tom, right? Because LaBeef is knocked out
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then LaBeef is able to at least let him know where Mattie is. They have to use the horse to pull her out.
Yeah, the beef has to do that.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. LaBeef did.
Yes.
And
Because
then,
Tom went down there to get her and he couldn't get back up then.
Rooster,
right,
yeah.
Yeah.
right, exactly.
Rooster, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Rooster, I loved it. It's like he gets on her horse, Blackie. He's riding until the horse just exhausts. It's like you can
Die.
see him riding overnight. And then he runs and he carries her, and they get to a Native American person's farm. They give him a buggy. Then he uses that buggy,
Yeah.
and it's just phenomenal. So they finally get her to Fort Smith, all right? So then I thought it was apropos. Now the mother's back in the picture. So
Right.
Maddie's knocked out for a few days, but in a coma, but before her arm is amputated. I just thought it was interesting how her mother was there holding her right hand,
Yeah.
while they amputated her left arm because it was above the elbow. But it's like, wow, that was awesome. And then Rooster came a few times to see her but
Mhm.
then, she was knocked out. She didn't know, and she never saw him again.
Right.
That made me sad.
Yes.
I know. So, Melody, talk about the last part where, her little brother lets her know, about Rooster. And
Yeah, I was hoping that she was going to have a chance to be able to see him, but it made me sad that they hadn't connected again. But I also understood during this time, a lot of people, once they said goodbye, it was you didn't necessarily go to meet up like we do now,
Right.
you know, and so yeah, that it just made me like, oh man, this is not okay. I wasn't sad about LaBeef not seeing him because he kind of was into his own world. But you just felt for these two characters. They had come together and they had an understanding for each other, and I appreciated that.
exactly. But it just goes to show because Rooster now is in a Wild West show in Memphis,
Right.
Tennessee. So
Right.
Oh,
Maddie
and
has
not
to,
even a good one.
No.
right,
Got really bad characters with them.
exactly. So it's like, to me, I just felt like his life had gone downhill,
Mm-hmm.
because he's doing this. But
Mm-hmm.
then and Maddie had to ride the train to get there. And of course, she's going a few days before, maybe a day before the show to see him, and then learns that he had died a few months prior in
Right.
another city. So that was sad that, they never got to never got to see each other anymore. But I loved how Maddie said she was never married. She was a woman with brains and a frank tongue, and she had an invalid mother to care for. So that's why she didn't marry.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the fact that people said Maddie loved her church and her bank.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
But she's got this estate, this farm
Mm-hmm.
that's quite sizable to manage. So I'm sure, it just continued to grow and blossom.
And
Yeah,
I imagine she just took over for the dad and
yeah.
she ran the business until, she couldn't. So,
And I'm
Correct.
sure that she always had her father in her thoughts. I mean, I'm
mm-hmm.
sure
Yes.
it was always something where she did it because her father had taught her, and she knew that. But um, so I was going to add because I talked to a couple people who've also read this book and just was asking them just like how, I mean, like the little things that she would say that would just make it sound so real. Like I wrote down the one where she's talking about the Harrison Narcotic Act of 19. Thank God for that because all those women were drinking that stuff that was mixed with narcotics, the bile conductor or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was told that so Charles Portis, he was a newspaper man and he had gone from Alabama to New York and then I think he ended up in France. But then he decided he wanted to write a book, so he went back to Alabama and he worked for an Alabama newspaper there. And at that time in the 50s, I guess, the little communities, there'd usually be some middle-aged woman who would write up, like what's the news in the town and send it in for the newspaper so that he could then put it together in articles about what's going on in the county or whatever, or
Yes.
and so he had all these middle-aged women writing him, and he got the voice from them. He got the understanding of how people talk from them,
Mm-hmm.
and the things that are important to them, the little things that they would drop in there, and the scripture pieces that they would drop in
Yeah.
there, those kind of things. And obviously a good listener and a good writer, he was able to put it all together because I really enjoyed Maddie's voice throughout the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
It was
agree.
I have
honest
a
and
question. Did I miss it or did LaBeef ever give Rooster his money from capturing Tom Chaney? Because remember that he
I don't
went his
know.
separate way and he collected his
Yes.
money. But did he
We
ever
don't
come
know.
back and give Rooster any of that money?
No, but lawyer Daggett made sure he got an extra bonus.
Right. I remember he gave him, I think,
Yeah.
$200.
Yeah, or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
this I don't know. I kind of felt like this was the best thing Rooster ever did.
Yes.
Correct. I
I
agree.
mean, because he had such a checkered past, and then he had and sorted things all like, nothing was very honorable up until he did this,
Yes.
and he slept
Right.
with her. And
Right.
so I imagine he didn't want that tarnished in any way in his memory, and that's why he didn't want to make it worse with Maddie. He wanted to leave
Mm-hmm.
what they had, you know.
Right.
It just seemed to be such a poetic way that it all ended.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Most
They
definitely.
let this story stand.
And what you just said, Angie, it made me think that if Maddie hadn't gone with them, Rooster may not have fulfilled his end of the bargain because
Right.
he was a drunk. He was used to just
Right.
doing what he wanted to. So
Right. Right.
Maddie called him to be better.
Mm-hmm.
He
Mhm.
rose to the occasion for her. So
Right.
that's why I think because that was nothing but love to ride that horse until the brakes fell off.
Well,
Exactly.
And
let me
then,
tell you,
carrying her, because
yes.
he knew that it's going up her arm, it's going to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The
Mm-hmm.
blessing,
Well,
she just lost part of her arm.
one of my
Yeah.
favorite characters was old Blackie. That
Mhm.
that
Oh.
Yes,
horse, you just had to love
Mm-hmm.
that horse,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
So
Exactly. I was going to ask everyone, and we can, thanks for that insight about Charles Portis, Angie. I wasn't familiar with
Yes.
that. That's why it was written as a serial for the Saturday Evening Post because he was a newspaper man.
Mm.
yeah.
That
Mhm.
makes
Yeah.
sense. It really does. Okay,
It
that's
just
cool.
also makes me think of all those brilliant women who were living in little tiny towns and
Mm-hmm.
they poured all their knowledge and interests and everything into writing
Mm.
letters or
Right.
whatever it happened to be. You know, we don't write as much as
No,
we're
we don't.
used
Mhm.
to.
No, we don't. People
Yeah.
don't write letters,
No.
cards, they send emails. So everyone tell me, I'm not going to ask you your favorite character. Tell me your favorite part of the book. What was like your favorite story that was woven into the book, or favorite part? Yeah, so
Gosh,
I don't
there's so
know.
many.
Here, no,
go ahead, Sam.
here,
A little bit. Make sure you speak up as much as
here
you can.
is going on with my, okay. But what I liked was how Maddie was able to negotiate to get Blackie the horse.
Okay,
I thought she did a phenomenal job.
awesome.
And I'm
So,
with Angie. I like the horse, the Blackie on there. And, because it wasn't really a good horse, but she took to it.
right.
And that horse was not going to let the other horses leave him. He just, kept up with everybody and he protected her, I just, and he just ran till he died, to get
Exactly.
her in. So I
You
Okay.
like
gotta
it.
love that scene at the end where it's Rooster against Lucky Ned Pepper.
Right.
And then LaBeef shoots from up above. I mean, they were a
Yes.
real team then,
Mm-hmm.
that was
Mm-hmm.
that was great. But I have to say, I loved her with Grandma Turner. And when she's talking about the books they read, I don't know which one it was that you picked. And it's just it was such like a little glimpse into personality that didn't really have a lot to do with the story except for it made you like her more. It made it just seem more real, the whole
Yes.
thing.
I had several parts in the book that I really liked, but I really, really liked the way she bartered with that
Colonel
Oh yeah.
Stone. Yeah,
yeah, for the
the
horses
horses.
and everything. I said she played him like a
She
well
did.
tuned piano. She
And that
really
was
did
so
well with that.
funny because he
That
was
cracked
like,
me up.
yeah, he was like, please don't come back.
Exactly. I'll say my favorite part was Maddie's determination in going with Rooster and LaBeef to avenge her father's murder. So just that whole journey, just seeing her true grit. I
Mm-hmm.
love that. But then I'd say at the end, when she meets the murderer, and her strength and her bravery. You know, this is a grown man. I mean, he was 25 years old. She was 14 years old. I just loved her bravery through that process. And she didn't back down and she never showed fear at all. So
Right. Right.
she was one awesome character.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
any last thoughts from anybody? Or shall we say this is a wrap?
That was an excellent book.
It was
That's
an
my
excellent
last
book.
thought.
Awesome. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So we
Mhm.
started
Yes.
out with a bang. So everyone, thank you for joining us for this first book club of 2025 to 2026. We discussed True Grit by Charles Portis, and we'll see you next time.